Lisbeth, and I'm here all by myself today. So, today I want to talk about resource guarding and sleep, um, which has been one of the main issues I've been working with my current dog, Wilma, the Basset. I'm sure you've seen a lot of pictures with her. She's a really nice dog. I love her, of course, with all my heart. But she's also tested me and helped me understand or not understand some of her behaviors. So I got Wilma when she was 8 weeks old from a breeder. She was bred, she grew up in kind of a, not inside the home of the breeder, but in a sort of a barn-like side building with all her siblings. I think there were 10 puppies or something. And I visited her a couple of times. Actually, I was not meant to have her, that puppy. I was meant to have another one. And then the breeder asked me if I would wanted to take her instead, which I did. So I think it's kind of a it's a meaning to it all. You get what you deserve, right? So since I'm very interested in behavior, I think it proved to be a good opportunity for me to learn quite a lot of things as well. So Wilma is 10 years old now this spring, and when we got her, she was 8 weeks old. I chose to pick her up at 8 weeks old because I didn't want her to stay with a breeder longer than absolutely necessary, because they were not being socialized in any way, in any way that I would want the puppies to be socialized, which means that the only socialization I've had was um, one trip in a car to the vet, and then they had visitors in that side building coming into their where they lived. Um, she wasn't used to being inside in a like home environment as such, and um, they were fed out of one bowl. So all the puppies got to eat from one bowl. So guess what happened? Wilma quickly learned that she had to eat as quickly as possible, as much as possible, in order to get full, because it was actually, you know, it was a competition to get the food. So when we took her home, she was already protecting her food. So that was the first thing I had to work with, and that took very little time. And I'm not going to talk about protecting food or food aggression today. We will save that for some other time. But I have a few tricks up my sleeve which I used, and because she was a young puppy, it's very easy to train. So it took about 2 days, I think. The first day we already saw improvements. Okay, I want my dogs to sleep in my bed. That's how I choose to. I like that. So that's my choice. If you don't want that, that's your choice. It's none of my business. But I took Wilma up in the bed um, with the other dogs. And then we realized something very interesting and not very nice. And that was that Wilma woke up in the night, and then she was acting very aggressively towards the other dogs or even cats that were in the bed at the same time. During daytime, this was not a problem, not at all. And it did not happen every night, and it did not happen, um, it wasn't regular. It was, the first time I remember it was just a few weeks after she moved in. So she was still a very young puppy. And the first time I was like, wow, what happens, because I slept too. So I didn't understand what was happening because I woke up when she was growling to the other dogs. So this happened sometimes, very rarely in the beginning, but then after a while, a little bit more often. So let's say maybe once a week, I could wake up in the middle of the night with, you know, Wilma standing on top of another dog in my bed, growling, being very insecure and very showing all the distance increasing signals, a lot of noise and a lot of very, stiff bodies and everything. And of course, this was not very nice to the other dogs or the cats to experience because they were all sleeping. And the problem is obviously that since I was sleeping, I had no idea what triggered this behavior. So in the beginning, I thought maybe someone stepped on her. Maybe she was, she woke up with a nightmare. What, maybe I rolled over and touched her, something. I was thinking that must have been, it's maybe that's what caused her behavior. But then, as she grew older, and it still happened, it could be weeks without nothing happened, no problem whatsoever, and then suddenly she would do it again. And as she grew, of course, it wasn't a very pleasant thing. So of course, I spoke to Turid about it. I remember I spoke to Amber Batson about it. Amber referred to something called sleep aggression, but it was very, very rare, very rare. Um, and I still don't know why. Because Wilma can't speak my language, so I still don't know why. The end of the story was that I could not let her sleep in my bed anymore because of her behavior. It was very sad because I would like her to sleep there. But at the time I had several dogs, so I also had a golden retriever. And the golden retriever did not want to sleep in the bed because it was too warm, so she preferred to sleep somewhere else in the house. So I had to teach Wilma not to come into my bed when we were going to sleep. So at the time, I had two Italian greyhounds, and they were allowed in the bed. And the cats were pretty much doing whatever they want, just like cats are always doing. So I had to teach Wilma after, I think it was a couple of years, and she was used to sleeping in the bed. I had to tell her that you can't do this anymore. And this is something that people have to deal with quite often. Maybe you move together with someone, or for some reason, your dog is not allowed into your bed anymore. And I tell you that it's not such a big problem to teach them not to be in your bed as long as you are um, being very, what is it called? Like persistent. You have to do the same thing. So you have to be persistent and not allow them to come up in the bed. Now, with Wilma, it was not a problem because she can't really jump into bed because she's very low. It's a basset hound, so she can't jump up into my bed. But she could, of course, she can stand on two and, uh, and make a lot of noise. So what I did was that I used, okay, I'm going to actually go and get it so you can see exactly what I mean. It's this gates that we actually buy in the garden center. You can have them outside, they're very nice and light and easy. So, and extremely cheap. So, that one I put up in front of the bed so she couldn't come into the area and jump, up. So I used this one, and it took 2 nights. This was a surprise to me because I thought it would take longer because she was so used to sleeping in my bed. But it took 2 nights, and of course, 2 nights of not very good sleep for me or for Wilma, for that sake, because she would be, making these noises like, she wanted clearly to come into bed with us, me and the greyhounds. But then when I did not react, she, after 2 days, stopped doing it. And she never did it since. Never. It was not a question about it. The difficult part is to manage to not say anything, to manage to be quiet. And I think maybe if I managed that, maybe it would have taken only one night. But it's very difficult because you kind of, automatically say something to them, don't you? Like, oh no, sorry, Wilma. And, I was full of excuses and I was explaining her why she wasn't allowed to, which is, obviously a waste of time because she doesn't understand me anyhow. But, when she was making sound, when she was sitting in front of this gate and she was like, wanting to come up in bed, I said something to her, so I triggered her or helped her to continue asking to come into bed. So once I stopped doing that, it's really hard, but I did, and there was never a problem again. And I've done that twice with another dog as well earlier on, many, many years ago. So that works if you are persistent. Sometimes it can take more than 2 days, but it's worth it. And okay, it's not like Wilma. I still feel a bit bad, then when I think about it. But it's not like Wilma was not able to sleep anywhere else. They had the whole house. They had the sofa, two different sofas, a couple of chairs, dog beds, and everything. So that wasn't a problem. It's not like she was, locked up in some small room by herself. And she was then sleeping next to my golden retriever. So it wasn't really a problem. But that was the solution because it's no way that I was uh, able to be warned of her behavior, her aggressive behavior when she woke up at night, wanting to scare or something triggered her. So she got really very, very frustrated or angry or something, not angry, but something happened. And, can you imagine the other dogs that was, kind of attacked, not attacked physically, but she was just standing over them, growling. That's not a nice way to wake up for the other dogs either. So we just had to do it. And I still don't know what triggered it because I wasn't able to be awake all night and, pretend to be asleep to see whatever might have triggered this. So this is one of the unsolved mysteries that we have. Okay. Yeah. So the next thing is now Wilma's like she's 10 this spring, but she still has the same thing. So sadly, my other dogs are now in dog heaven, but Wilma is here with my cat, and Wilma still cannot be in the bed with the cat because she's having the same behavior with the cat. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, when the other dogs were no longer here, Wilma could come back into bed. And I completely forgot about the cat, to be honest, So I went to sleep. Wilma was there in the bed and we were sleeping. And then again, I woke up, very abrupt by Wilma standing over the cat. The cat was kind of, in the corner, like going like this, like a cat does. And Wilma was again having exactly the same behavior, growling, growling really bad. So what I do then when this is happening, when this happens, I actually leave the bed. I go out of the bed. Do not start shouting or yelling or talking to, like, don't do it, because that can trigger even more. As long as she's not doing anything else but just using, voice and the body language, she hasn't really attacked at all. It's the best thing I could do then was to leave the area, because clearly this is something we found out uh, in the beginning. It has something to do with me. If I am not there, so if Wilma can sleep and could sleep with the other dogs in my bed during daytime when I wasn't there. Same thing on the sofa. She can sleep with anyone as long as I'm not there. Then that behavior comes. So it's something to do with protecting me, to guarding behavior, or she's afraid of something. Yeah, she's afraid of not having me to herself or something. We don't know what it is, but that's clearly what it is. So yeah, she still can't do it, even though it's been maybe then 8 years or 7 years then between. And she was back to her old, behavior at night. So these were the two things I wanted to tell you about. That it's one, sometimes we can't always get the answer why a behavior is happening. Yeah, and we have to live with that. I'm very curious still, and I really wish I could explain to her that don't worry, we can all sleep here together, but we just can't. So then we have to find an alternative solution. And this was and is a very, very difficult one, because I can't think of any other solution to have, as long as this is happening when I am not awake. Because if I'm awake, then I can prevent things from happening. So Wilma was a bit, guarding resources. She's always been a bit like that. So um, when she was younger, she could have, when the cat walked by and she was just sleeping on the floor or in a dog bed or somewhere, she could suddenly just stare at the cat and think, oh, I don't want you too close to me or something. Then I can actually go and split, can go in between. I could use the hand signal. I could do something to prevent it. I used the attention sound very much, very often. That was the easiest thing to do, was to use the attention sound. So when I saw Wilma starting to stare at the cat, I would look at Wilma and do the attention sound. So she turned her face in my direction. And then I would praise her. I would say, oh, that's good. You can hear me. And I would just, talk a little bit, blah, 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 blah. So I got her attention away from the cat. And then all fine. She didn't even get out of bed. She don't get out of bed if I am able to prevent it by distracting her or something like that. And it's just a matter of seconds to do something else, to turn the other way or something. So then we avoid the problem altogether, or the behavior. But as long as it's happening while you're sleeping, always when you're sleeping, then it's very, very difficult to do something about it. But then again, I then learned how easy it actually is to teach them not to be in bed uh, uh, anymore. And this is a lot of puppy owners, puppy people who get a puppy. We always recommend to sleep with the puppy in the beginning until they are safe and feel secure in their new home. So either you take your mattress on the floor and sleep on the floor, or you can take your puppy into your bed. And I've always learned before that if you take your dog into your bed, you can never ever get it out, because it will always want to come back to your bed. And it's not true. It's absolutely possible to teach them not to come into your bed, even though they are senior dogs. I've done that with senior dogs as well. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this, is that this is a very rare condition. I've never heard of it before. Amber has heard about it a couple of times, and she has, met thousands of dogs. Same thing with Turid. It's very, very rare problem, this kind of behavior when they're sleeping. And what makes it difficult is when you don't know when it happens or if it's going to happen. It's much the same as when you have a dog that sometimes lounges or reacts very badly when they're meeting other dogs. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't happen. This is always difficult, but at least you're awake, right? You're not sleeping. So at least you have a chance to do something about it to prevent the behavior from happening. Because that is, when we're working with problem behavior, that is really one of the first things we need to do, is to try and prevent the behavior from happening. Because what we want to do is to teach them a new behavior, a new way of dealing with the problem or the issue or the situation. And in order to do that, we have to your brain physically has to make new learning ways, new pathways. So in order to do that, it's like the only way of doing it is to do that behavior you want, to do it a lot. It's like when we are changing our habits from eating chocolate to eating vegetables. You have to eat a lot of vegetables, and you have to, if you want to incorporate a new habit, you have to do it regularly for quite some time until the habit is then become a habit. So it's easier for you to do it. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't think about it now. It's just a habit. You do it before you go to bed. Same thing with behavior. We want to limit that unwanted behavior, so we have to prevent that from happening in order to find new ways of dealing with the situation for the dog. Yeah. And in this case, it was the only solution is to leave Wilma. She couldn't be in the bed when I was there with other dogs. Okay, so thank you for listening. Bye.